If you followed our work for any amount of time, you've probably heard me say this at least a few times. We only build Class A multifamily development projects. And now I want to explain why. Here are my top 4 reasons on why we only focus on Class A developments. Not from a marketing angle, but from a practical investor perspective. Because when you really understand how apartment buildings operate over time, the decision to focus on market rate Class A developments becomes a lot less about emotions and more about the data. My name is Justin Goodin. I'm the founder of Goodin Development, and we build Class A apartments from the ground up here in Indiana. So I'm speaking on firsthand about how I made that choice to stay laser focused on this one strategy. So let's walk through this in simple terms. But first, let's define exactly what Class A properties are. In commercial real estate, properties are generally grouped into 3 broad categories: Class A, Class B, and Class C. This isn't an official rule book, but it's a common way investors and developers talk about quality, age, and overall positioning in the market. Class C properties are typically the oldest. These are usually workforce housing assets that were built 40 years ago or more. They tend to have older systems, fewer amenities, and lower rents, but they can serve an important role in providing affordable housing. Class B properties sit in the middle of the spectrum. These are buildings often 20 to 40 years old and usually have some updates, but not all the bells and whistles. In terms of quality, amenities, and price, they're kind of in the middle ground in the market. Now, Class A properties are the newest assets. These are typically built within the last 20 years or so and represent the top tier of the market. They offer modern layouts, newer construction, updated finishes, and top tier amenities. Because of all that, they usually command the highest rents in their market. Okay, so now we're on the same page, let's get back to my 4 reasons why we only focus on Class A developments. The first reason is simple: fewer repair and maintenance issues. When you build a property from the ground up, everything is brand new. The roof, the plumbing, the electrical components, the HVAC systems and appliances, you name it, it's brand new. Now compare that to buying a 30 or even 40-year-old apartment building. Even if it looks fine on day one, you're inheriting decades of wear and tear. That's old pipes, old wiring, deferred maintenance, systems that are at the end of their useful life, whether you like it or not. Those issues don't just cost money, they cost time, attention, and a lot of mental energy. I like to compare it to buying a new car versus a high mileage used car. The used car might be cheaper up front, but you know exactly what's coming: repairs, breakdowns, and unexpected trips to the mechanic. Now, new construction isn't immune to problems, but the frequency and severity of those issues is dramatically lower. Fewer surprises like that leads to more predictable cash flow. And that predictable cash flow matters a lot when you're responsible for investor capital. Okay, so the second reason why we build Class A apartments is because new, modern properties can demand top of the market rents. This isn't speculation. This is how renters actually behave. If you're one of the newest, nicest apartment communities in a market, you don't have to compete purely on price. You compete on quality, design, amenities, and overall tenant experience. People are usually willing to pay more to live in a place that feels modern, clean, and intentional. These are updated finishes, thoughtful layouts, good lighting, and amenities that people actually want today. Especially in growing Midwest markets like Indiana, where new supply is often limited, brand new Class A properties stand out immediately. For the properties we build, we're never trying to be the cheapest option in town. We're always focused on building the best possible community in the best location. All right, so the third reason why we focus on Class A apartments is the type of residents these communities attract. And this is an important one that people don't always talk about enough. Class A properties tend to attract younger professionals, small families, and white-collar workers. People with stable jobs, people who value their living environment, and people who plan ahead. That usually translates to better collections, lower delinquency, fewer evictions, and less crime. Are there exceptions? Of course. No property is perfect, but on average, tenant quality is a lot higher in these Class A apartments. And higher quality residents reduce operational friction. That means less time chasing rent, less turnover, less damage to units, and fewer legal issues. When investors ask me what keeps deals running smoothly year after year, this is a big part of the answer. The quality of the asset influences the quality of the resident base. Okay, so the fourth and final reason why we only build Class A apartments is what happens on the back end when it's time to sell. Newly built properties are extremely competitive at sale. Institutional buyers, private equity firms, and long-term owners all love stabilized Class A assets. Because the property is brand new, the next buyer doesn't have to underwrite major capital improvements right away. They're not budgeting for a new roof or a full interior renovation for a long time. And that lower perceived risk allows buyers to accept a lower cap rate or return. And a lower cap rate means a higher sale price for the developer and their investors. This is one of the biggest advantages of new construction that most people don't realize. So you're not just building for cash flow, you're building an asset that the market values at a premium because of its age, condition, and durability. I always remind investors of this. The exit matters just as much as the operations, and sometimes even more. Okay, pause. I know that was a lot, but now I want to be very clear about one thing. Building Class A apartments does not mean zero risk. Development is still hard, construction takes time, costs can change, and the markets can shift. But when you take a step back and look at the full picture, Class A properties tend to be more durable over the long term. They have fewer operational issues, they compete better, and they sell better. And when you're investing for 5, 7, or even 10 years, that durability makes a big difference. So when investors ask why we don't chase older, cheaper properties, or why we don't build Class B or Class C product, this is the answer. Our strategy allows for fewer headaches, stronger tenant demand, better collections, long-term durability, and competitive exits, all while being honest about the risk involved. At the end of the day, real estate investing is not about finding the flashiest deal. It's about stacking enough small, smart decisions together that all the odds can play in your favor over time. If you want to learn more about how we structure our multifamily developments here in Indiana, you can sign up for our free 7-day passive real estate investing 101 email course at goodindevelopment.com/course. That's where we walk through how syndications work, how to evaluate risk, and how to decide if this strategy is right for you. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to visit our website or leave a comment below.